Hello and welcome to the Buckinghamshire Skills Hub broadcast that's being held in honour of National Apprenticeship Week, which aims to raise awareness of the many benefits that apprenticeships can offer you and your career. So thank you for joining us. We're going to start today's session with a lovely presentation from the Buckinghamshire Skills Hub, and I'm going to hand you over to Julia, who's going to kickstart today's session.
Thank you, Charlie. Good evening, everyone. My name is Julia Bond and I work for the Buck Skills Hub. We support all the schools, secondary schools in Buckinghamshire, to improve links between schools, students and businesses. We're trying to offer the widest choice to young people of possible career pathways that could be open to them, and to help them and their parents pick their way through all of the information that's available, so that they can make more informed decisions for their young person's best next step. This evening, we're going to be focusing on apprenticeships. We have an amazing panel of young people lined up to talk to you this evening about their experience of the apprenticeship pathway. I'm really excited to hear it myself. They will be very inspiring. Before we meet them properly, I'm going to spend about 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, explaining some of the information that you might need to know about apprenticeships. Next slide, please. So there's a question here that I suspect you'll find the answer is relatively obvious about what all these employers have got in common. The obvious answer is that they all offer apprenticeships. But the thing to mention here is that these are all very big names. We've got some big brands listed here, which is great. But what's worth bearing in mind is that if you are considering an apprenticeship, you could look locally. There are lots and lots of businesses who are nearby who are also offering apprenticeships, and we'll discuss a bit about the apprenticeship standards in a sec, but the standard of the offer from all of these organisations is equivalent and, generally speaking, excellent. Next slide, please. This question, though, I would like to pause for a moment and see if you can actually give me an answer in the Q&A about what you think apprenticeships actually are. What's your gut reaction? If I was to ask you that question, what would be your first response? If you can type an answer into the Q&A, I'd be interested to see what you have to say. So thank you for considering that. Charlie, if you could press the forward arrow. So in principle, an apprenticeship is a job. That's the fundamental main part of it. It's an 80-20 split between working and doing some study. So you will hear from the panelists that we've got with us tonight that different employers approach this in a different way. So there is no one fixed way. Some employers might send students, or employees rather, apprentices, off on block release, say to university. Others may do a day release option, but the balance is made so that you still are working and studying. And that's the thing that's also quite interesting to consider here, because that does actually make, it should be obvious, I suppose, that it is actually quite a hard choice. You do have to have decided that as a young person, you've got a pretty decent work ethic, because you are actually delivering your job and your qualification at the same time. So it's just worth bearing that in mind. And but I think really rewarding, because what you get at the end of it is an amazing array of work experience, as well as your qualification, and you're being well paid for it as well. So those are the things that are worth bearing in mind. It says here on the info chart, typically apprenticeships are lasting between 1 to 4 years. They have to last a year as a minimum. But some of the young people on this call tonight will be doing apprenticeships that last 4 years or more. So that's what awaits. The progression is great. There are lots and lots of standards, lots and lots of apprenticeship standards. What that means is there are, it's a quality check, if you like, that says this is what, if you're going to achieve an apprenticeship in a particular job, this is what it must consist of. And there are hundreds and hundreds of those apprenticeship standards out there. So anything that you might be interested in studying, there will be an apprenticeship in it. Next slide, please. So this chart is a way of illustrating to you what the different levels are. So we tonight are discussing levels 6 and 7, which are the degree level apprenticeships. But you can see on this chart that there is quite a range, and believe it or not, actually, it doesn't show it on here because it's not relevant, but you can actually get apprenticeships at level 9. So there are some businesses that offer apprenticeships to existing employees to do things like MBAs and that kind of thing. So we are principally looking at levels 6 and 7 this evening. And as you can see, they are equivalent to a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. Next slide, please. Various ways into an apprenticeship. We've got them listed here: traineeships, work experience, T-levels, or applying for the vacancy directly. Now, I suspect if you are considering a degree level apprenticeship, chances are you are already studying A-levels or equivalent. In the event that you were hesitating about whether what you were doing currently was the right thing for you, or you're still doing your GCSEs and you're thinking about what happens after A-levels, it's worth considering all these other avenues that are available to you, and we'll look at each one in turn just now. So the first one, if next slide please, Charlie, is traineeships. These are available for, oh sorry, press the next arrow, apologies. These are available for 16 to 24-year-olds, and it is a good mix of work experience and preparing you for work, and giving you a really detailed insight into the requirements for most jobs for English, maths, digital skills, and so on. They are, yes, they are available for between 6 weeks to 12 months. Generally speaking, it's the 6 months is how long they last generally, but useful if you can get on one. They're tricky to find, but if you can find them, they're worth it. So that's a useful way of getting a pre-start before, to help you decide whether an apprenticeship is the right thing for you. Next slide, please. Work experience. Now, again, the young people on the call tonight in the audience will hear this being spoken about a lot at school, and the reason it gets spoken about a lot is because it's really important. So you need to persevere and get yourself some work experience, get yourself as credible an amount of work experience as you can in industries that you may or may not be interested in, just to even rule it out, to decide whether it is or something you do or don't want to do. You're going to learn new skills at any kind of work experience, and an employer, particularly an employer for apprenticeships, will be very interested in whether you've taken the trouble to try to get some work experience beforehand. It counts for a lot. Next slide, please. And then the other thing that's worth discussing is this newish qualification. It's been around 2 or 3 years now, called T-levels. These are a vocational approach to studying A-levels, really. As you can see on the chart here, it's an 80-20 split. 80% of your time you spend in the classroom and 20% of your time you spend at work with an employer. That 20% looks like well, what it is in reality is 45 days. So it's a good mix of classroom study and vocational work placement. So if you haven't yet got to the stage of doing a level 3 qualification, a T level is a level 3 equivalent to A levels, and available more and more. In Buckinghamshire, the biggest provider of T-levels is Bucks College. There are one or two other places offering them, so Aylesbury UTC is offering T-levels as well, but worth scouting around if that interests you. Next slide, please. This slide, if you can see it, sorry, probably the writing's a bit small, but just figuratively, it shows you the big range of T-levels that are available. Most of them are available now, and there are 4 or 5 that will be available later this year. But again, in a huge range of disciplines to sort of whet your appetite, and it is a useful springboard into apprenticeships from here. You can see the website listed there, so worth looking those up, and later on I'll post the range of T-levels available at Bucks College that I've got for you, and I'll share that with you too. Next slide, please. This infographic is a way of illustrating the range of careers that are available to you as in an apprenticeship. As you can see, there are a huge range of what you would consider traditionally vocational jobs, as well as the more academic qualifications, I guess you might say, like for instance being a doctor or quantity surveyor. But apprenticeships exist in all of these disciplines and many more, so the kind of the choice is yours, whatever interests you. Next slide, please. On this slide, what we're looking at here is some of the advantages, really, or advantages and or the reality of studying a higher or degree level apprenticeship. So as we said earlier, it really is about doing full-time work and studying. So, and because you're studying at quite a high level, it's demanding work and it's demanding study. But generally speaking, the employers that are recruiting level 6 and level 7 apprentices will pay well because they know that they're getting good work from you. So you're going to learn a lot. You're going to be paid well. You won't get a debt from going to university to study your higher level qualification. The employer is going to pay that for you. You get the various student benefits, like as it says there, for instance, membership of National Union of Students. And you get a stack of work experience, which all employers understand the value of. It's not to be underestimated, the importance that that work experience piece brings to your CV. And universities are offering these apprenticeships. There are, as it says there, over 100 universities that offer these kinds of courses. So very worth considering. Next slide, please. Okay, so if you could press the forward arrow for me, Charlie, thank you. To get on and apply for an apprenticeship, so there is a government website called Find an Apprenticeship. I'm not going to lie, it's pretty dull looking website, but it's great because it offers the majority of the apprenticeships that are offered by employers. It will have those available on there. And what you can do once you set up your account, I'll show you a barcode in a sec, a QR code in a sec for you to scan to get you access to this. But you can set your requirements, set your alarms, set your filters for the things that you're interested in, and then when apprenticeships come up that have those keywords in, it will send you an alert to tell you that there is an availability to apply for this particular role. And it's worth doing that because employers don't conform to the usual UCAS time frame. If they have a vacancy, they'll advertise it. So you need to be ready to be able to apply when these things come up. So yes, if we could do the next slide, please. Here is the QR code that I mentioned, where you can scan that, and the region that Buckinghamshire is in the south. So by scanning that, it will take you to that page and you can register there. There's no catch. It's just a way of the government being able to make sure that you're getting the information that you need about the apprenticeships that you're interested in. Next slide, please. I suspect we've got a few parents on the call, so it's useful for you to know that there are a lot of resources out there to help you support the young person in your family who's interested in pursuing an apprenticeship. These parent perspective podcasts are very helpful. They are released weekly. There is a magazine, effectively online magazine, that comes out every week as well. And there are top tips for parents. So if you are still at all unsure, please go onto the Amazing Apprenticeships website. Again, I'll post the link soon for that, or some of us will, so that you can access these resources, and they are updated regularly. So it's really a good place to look if you are unsure. Next slide, please. And if you want to know more, and if you want to meet some employers and try to start these conversations about what they are offering, the first thing I would say is get yourself a ticket, a free ticket, to come to the Buck Skills show that's coming up in a month's time on Wednesday, the 6th of March. It will be at Stoke Mandeville Stadium from 4 p.m. till 8 p.m. and there will be a lot of these employers there who are offering apprenticeships at degree level, or if you're on the call and that's not quite what you're ready for, they offer level 2 and upwards apprenticeships. So please get yourself along and come and have conversations with these employers, because you will really benefit from those conversations, and the employers will be interested to know you and to be on the lookout for you when you apply. Also, you can go to the Amazing Apprenticeships website. We've mentioned that already, but it's well worth being able to look at that page. And I think that's it from me. I think you now get to have the interesting stuff, which is listening to the young people who are on the call.
Thank you, Julia, for covering all the sort of basics and links. Lots of helpful resources have been shared in the Q&A thread by our moderators, so please do take a look, and more links and things will be posted throughout the session, so definitely keep an eye on that, as well as all the questions. And any questions you do have, get those submitted to us and we'll answer them a little bit later on. We're going to start our panel now with our first speaker. Is a gentleman called Max, and they're currently studying a level 6 business apprenticeship. So Max, do you want to come tell us a little about the company you work for and your experience?
Yes, certainly. Evening, everybody. So yeah, like was mentioned, my name's Max and I'm a level 6 degree apprentice at Zenopa. And many of you probably haven't heard of Zenopa. We are a recruitment company in the life science and healthcare industry. So we work closely with the NHS and larger companies such as GSK. Effectively, we work on the commercial side. So if they're bringing out a new product or a new bit of medicine, for example, we create a commercial team for them to distribute and do that throughout the UK. Currently, I'm studying towards a business management degree. I've been at Zenopa now for 2.5 years, leaving straight from school, sixth form, where I studied business, psychology and PE. And currently I'm working in HR at Zenopa, and I do a bit of rotation every year. So previously, I've also worked in finance and the operations department. I think this is really good. It's allowed me to also work out what I want to do. So doing a general business degree, I wasn't sure what department I wanted to go in specifically. So yeah, if you guys are thinking degree apprenticeships can be very single-minded, I've also, used it to work out within business where I want to go. So yeah, it does also widen your pathways in a sense there. At the university side, I've just started my 3rd year at Cranfield University, which many of you might not have heard of. It's not typically a bachelor's university, but it is a top 10 business institute in the UK. So I'm still getting a degree from a very well-renowned university. As Julia mentioned, I actually do a mixture of both 1-day release and also a block release. So Thursdays I'll often go off to university, but for the start and end of every module I'll go up for a Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. So we often stay over. It's quite nice for me and some of the other Zenopa apprentices to get an insight into what life is like for university students. So we'll stay over and get a bit of that experience as well. So yeah, I've really enjoyed my time at the university. It's slightly different to a traditional university in the way we're taught. Instead of larger lectures, we have smaller, more focused classes, and we do a lot of what we call problem-based learning. So instead of essays and lectures, it's more it's more projects. We do lots of reports and feeding back that way, so we can kind of monitor it around us as a company, the industry. So it's a lot more applicable, I find, into my day-to-day role and what's going on around me. So again, if you guys kind of like that environment to learn and apply it into the real life, I find that useful. For me, the most important thing about the degree apprenticeship that I value is the experience. Thousands of graduates will come out of university with the same business management degree as me, but I think it's really the experience I've got, the skills, the connections that really makes me stand out from the crowd. Doing a degree apprenticeship, it's the value, the value of the experience effectively that you're bringing to your current employer and future employers. So yeah, definitely start to think about now how you can get experience and stand out from the crowd. I've kind of got 2 tips to finish for you guys. The first one would be to do your research. So, like Julia shared lots of links, it's kind of down to you really to find, what apprenticeships interest you. There's so many more opportunities out there with multiple industries. So definitely do give it a read. And then my second one, it sounds very basic, but just be yourself. A degree apprenticeship is at least a 3-year partnership where it has to work for you as well. So don't go through recruitment processes thinking, what is the employer looking for? Make sure it does match you as well. So yeah, that's all from me. I look forward to answering some of your questions later.
Well, I actually have a couple of follow-up questions for you because you said some interesting stuff, so I kind of want to expand on that. You mentioned how you kind of came straight off the back and went into this. So what was it that attracted you to Zenopa specifically? Why did you apply for that one rather than something else?
Yeah, so to be perfectly honest, I applied for lots of degree apprenticeships, and I think the first thing for you guys applying is you will get rejected from some. I'm not scared to say I've been rejected from many. There was quite a lot of big pull factors for Zenopa for me. One was the location, so it's based in Penn in Buckinghamshire, so it's only about 15 minutes from my house. So that was probably the first factor I considered. It was also then the people at the company. So we've got 26 apprentices now. So in terms of an environment, it's a really nice environment where you're with like-minded people who are also doing similar things. So I really feel valued within the company, but also like I'm part of my own smaller university cohort almost, which has really helped the divide between coming out of school and going straight into effectively a full-time role.
Yeah, nice. It's nice that you still get that sort of experience. You're kind of getting the best of both worlds in a way, right? Both sides of the coin, but you're definitely walking away with that experience, which could be so hard to get sometimes when you finish university with just a degree. You're battling everyone else in the same position as you. So you've kind of got a little bit in earlier and you're still getting that side of things at the same time, which sounds quite nice.
Yeah, definitely. I think as soon as I realised I wanted to go into business and found degree apprenticeships, it was kind of a no-brainer for me of why would I go to university when I can get the exact same qualification with 3 years experience and no debt, because I've also been financially driven and wanting the freedom on that side as well. So yeah, definitely a no-brainer.
I loved how you answered that, because my next question was did you ever have any doubts about applying for your apprenticeship? And you just answered it within that. So yeah, it stole my next question off me. All right then. Well, we'll move on now to our next speaker, and any questions you can get a couple more in our Q&A coming up shortly. So thank you for that one, Max. Our next speaker then is Hassan. He's going to come talk to us about his apprenticeship, and he's currently studying a CX technical degree apprenticeship. So do you want to tell us about that and who you are doing it with?
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Charlie. So evening, guys. As Charlie's mentioned, my name's Hassan, and I'm actually a first-year degree apprentice at Cisco. But more specifically, I'm following the software engineering pathway, and I'm studying a digital technology solutions degree with the Open University. So it's essentially level 6, so bachelor standard, and Cisco is basically founded in 1984. Just a little quick background. And it's a company in the IT industry, so it provides solutions in various technology sectors like networking, security, collaboration, IoT data, like the whole shebang, essentially, and it really helps transform like modern businesses. Yeah, that's basically a background of the company. So before I really jump into the actual overview of the apprenticeship, I just want to like give a quick brief overview of my my journey, really, because I was actually in your position 2 years ago, so I know what it's like. And hopefully some of you guys will be able to relate to it. So early on in year 10, I moved to a school called Bucks UTC. Now I believe it's called Aylesbury UTC. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I've heard. And that's basically where I completed my GCSEs and my BTEC level 3, so that's equivalent to A levels. And that's really where I found like my passion for IT, and also where I learned about Cisco, because Cisco actually sponsors the Bucks UTC. Again, I'm not sure as of now, but when I was there, they did sponsor it. And then, yeah, after sixth form, I took a gap year, just a little over a gap year, about 1.5 years. And honestly, that's only because I had no idea what to do. So I knew I finished school, but I didn't know where I wanted to go in regards to university and a degree apprenticeship, which I didn't know of. All I knew was that I liked technology. I liked IT. I wanted to work in IT. I was passionate about IT, but I just didn't want to go to university for the sake of going to university, finding myself in a debt, finding myself with a degree and no experience whatsoever, and no sense of direction for my career. So then finally, in February of 2023, I applied for the degree apprenticeship on Cisco's website. I went through like the whole interview process, and I was fortunate and lucky enough to get it, really. I'm not going to lie and say it was easy, because it wasn't. I mean, you have to put the work in it, because I mean, they're looking for the best, the same way you want to work for them. You know what I mean? They want the best candidate, essentially. And as of right now, I'm in the EPO team, so that works across EMEA, so Europe, Middle East, Africa region, as a software business analyst. Yeah, so that's currently where I'm at right now. Now moving on to the actual apprenticeship, which I'm sure you want to hear about. The Cisco apprenticeship it's like split into 2 career opportunity categories. So you have the sales program, and then you have the customer experience program, which is also known as a CX program. And then those two categories are split into a further 2 categories, which is technical and non-technical. Now myself, I'm in the CX program, which is this technical side, and I'm actually in the technical role. Some of the roles that you can hope to achieve after the completion is like software engineering and network engineering. And honestly, that's one of the beauties of Cisco, is that, you know, you decide what pathway you want to follow, and Cisco, it just provides you with that support and that platform that, you know, for you to follow and do that. Now, one of the most incredible things about this apprenticeship in particular is like the rotation. So I knew I wanted to go into IT, and I knew I wanted it to be in coding, but there's so many fields within that industry, within that sector. So a rotation is essentially a team, like you join within the organization, where you carry out the responsibilities of a specified role. That's literally it. So you get to join multiple teams, and it really allows you to explore different roles in your field and ultimately help you decide where you want to go into. Yeah, so just to close off my part, one of the things that I wish I knew before, you know, when I finished school, or, you know, before I decided to, you know, end my academic studies, essentially, was like the level of mentorship you get in a degree apprenticeship, and also the access you have to like experienced employees across the industry. I mean, these guys have years and years of experience, and they're really knowledgeable. Obviously they've experienced it, so they tell you where like the pitfalls are, the shortcuts, and they really just give you general tips to help you like achieve your goals quicker, easier, faster. And if you want to know a little bit more, I mean, there's more details to it. The applications are actually open as of right now until the 11th of February on the Cisco's website, which is how I actually applied for it. I went through the website. So yeah, that's me done. I could pass it back over to Charlie.
Yeah, awesome. Just as like a quick follow-up then,
Sure.
you mentioned that, you know, you enjoy like moving about to each department. Do you get kind of flexibility with that? Can you go, oh, I really want to see what those guys do? Or is it more of like a set schedule that you get given beforehand, so you kind of know what you're going in ahead? What kind of side does it fall on?
Yeah, so in regards to rotations, I mean, there's set rotations, so teams that are delivering the rotations, and it's essentially like a job within the organization. So the same way you apply, so you read it, and then those teams want to know what skills you have, what experience you have, and then essentially you go through the interview process. It's not obviously as like the stakes aren't so high because you're already in there, if you know what I mean. But yeah, you obviously you know exactly what you're getting into, and then you go through this process. You speak to the teams, and then you join the team. And usually, there in the first year that you get 4 sets of 3-month rotations. In the second and third year, you get 4 months of 6-month 4 sets of 6-month rotations. And in the final year, you sort of decide where you want to go. So you get a whole year of that exact rotation. So you know what field you want to go into.
Nice. All right. Thank you for answering our questions. And again, we've got more questions coming towards you later on for the Q&A section. Our next speaker is Joel. He's going to come and talk to you a little bit about his experience studying a level 4 manufacturing degree apprentice. So Joel, can you tell us about that and the company that you are undertaking that apprenticeship with?
Yep. Hi, Charlie. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you, everyone. Good evening. I hope you're all well. Yeah, my name's Joel. I am doing an engineering manufacturing degree apprenticeship, which is level 6. And I work for a company called the Digital Manufacturing Centre. Now, when I finished my GCSEs, I wasn't really too sure what I wanted to do. I was in desperate need of some careers advice, and I was in desperate need to find what job I wanted to do once I was done with GCSEs. So eventually I realized I wanted to do engineering once I discovered I was quite creative and I was quite interested in making the world a better place, making it more sustainable, but I wasn't too sure how I was going to do this yet. So what I decided to do was I decided to go get my A-levels in engineering at Silverstone UTC, which is a good school. And I did something called EAL engineering, which is an engineering course that is worth 3 A-levels. And with that, I got the amazing opportunity to do work experience. Now, this work experience placement is at the DMC, which is where I work now for an apprenticeship. So I spent a year doing work experience alongside my course, which was mandatory with my course. And yeah, I eventually went to talk with the owner and one of the HR and sales directors, and they decided they wanted their first apprenticeship. Now, the Digital Manufacturing Centre is a very new company. It's about 4 years old, so it is brand new, and it was just opposite where my school was in Silverstone. So I went there not knowing what they did, and I didn't understand what I was going to be doing. But I went there because I was in desperate need to have some work experience around engineering. So I went to the Digital Manufacturing Centre, and the first thing they told me is they did additive manufacturing, which I had no idea what that meant. So after a while, after a couple of months, I started to understand what it meant. It was a 3D printing company. Now, these companies don't just print, you know, small and make small printers that print small hand object. They make big, huge car parts for motorsport, such as Formula One. Aston Martin and Alpine have deals with them. They make car parts for automotive teams as well, such as Gordon Murray. They also have aerospace as well, aeronautical. They have medical as well and defence for the UK. And this eventually became one of the key things that I would be doing in an apprenticeship. Now, they print things like metal and polymers, which is a type of plastic, and fused deposition modelling, which is another type of printing. And the more and more I discovered, the more and more I enjoyed it. And eventually I got the decision to do an apprenticeship with them, which led to interview stages. They weren't too sure if they wanted me, but they made an offer. And now I am studying engineering manufacturing degree at University of Northampton, which is really good fun. I would say if I have any tips for anyone who wants to do anything like this, the best thing is like Max said, is to be yourself and really work with the people you're with. I'm the only apprentice at the moment, And you've got to set yourself a good example, because these people are going to be paying for your course. They're going to be taking a chance on you, and they don't want to do that lightly. They want to make sure they've got the best person. The other thing is when you're an apprentice, it's not going to end at 4 years. If you want to continue, you have to show that you've learnt everything. If you've just breezed through it, they're either not going to accept you for a job at the end, or they'll just fire you, and that will be that. You've got to really put some effort in, study, work hard, and it will lead to brilliant things like what I'm doing now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And yours is so interesting because you went from doing the work experience with them and to them offering you that apprenticeship. Was that like a weird change? Did it change much when you were kind of doing it for free and then going on this, or what was that change like?
It was a pretty interesting conversation because I was there at the time. It wasn't an email. And I had the owner and the sales director walk past me and say, "We need to talk to you." And I was very confused at the time because, well, one of them had spoken to me before and they said, "We've seen a real improvement in your work and we get that you like it here. We want to do something. Do you want a job here? Do you want an apprenticeship?" So it wasn't casual, but it was a sudden change in me realizing I could do this as a job. This isn't just work experience. If I work hard, I can really enjoy this and make it a permanent thing.
All right, I love it. Again, more questions will come to you in very shortly. We're moving to our last panelist before we move on to that Q&A. So we're going to hear from Stacey. And Stacey is currently studying an apprenticeship. So Stacey, would you like to tell us about your apprenticeship and about the company that you're working with?
Hello, I'm Stacey from Safri, and we are a chartered accountants firm. We're based in High Wycombe, so right near the town centre, and yeah, I'm doing an ACA apprenticeship, which is an ICW level 7 master's equivalent, which basically isn't the same as a degree apprenticeship because I'm not doing a degree, but it's the equivalent. And everyone who goes to university and then decides to consider a career in accounting, they end up having to do the ICW anyway. So in the courses, the study periods, most people are graduates and they've done 3 years of uni and then they're moving on and doing the exact same thing that you can now do without any university experience. So when I joined, I was in that transition period where ICW wasn't really accepting school leavers straight away, but now they're accepting them straight away. So whilst my apprenticeship is about 5 years, people who start now would only be going for 3 years. So it's literally the same as a university degree, and then you are ICW qualified, and there are so many advantages to that. For example, so many different countries accept the ICW as their accounting qualification, so you can travel and work in loads of different areas, so Australia, Canada, stuff like that. And it gives you that kind of freedom. Even when you're learning and qualifying, there's an opportunity to go on secondments and like do accounting in different places, which is great. Safri has 15 offices, so we're quite a big firm in accounting. We're not quite top 10, but we're top 15 in the country, and we have some offices in Dubai, some offices in Guernsey, so loads of different locations as well, just for even internal different places to work. Loads of travel, even in the High Wycombe office. Some people were in Holland in December doing some work for clients, so it is quite a cool opportunity in terms of all of that. There are 4 main departments, so I'm an audit, which means you kind of go around, you go to see clients, you check that their accounting information is all okay, nothing going on there that you wouldn't expect it to be. But there are 3 other departments. So there's the 2 taxes, there's personal tax and corporate tax. So obviously personal tax will be the people who do the accounts, the tax for other people, and corporation tax does tax calculations for bigger companies. And then we have an accounts department, which is growing currently, and that one is just making the accounts that then are audited or just put on company's house and, you know, ready for the world to see. So when I was applying to Safri, I had already been at university for a year, because after sixth form, after my A-levels, I felt like there was just no other option. I just thought university, that's what everyone else around us is doing, is kind of the most obvious choice. So I actually applied, and then about a year in, it was COVID, and I thought, I just don't want to do this. It wasn't for me. It wasn't the right path that I wanted, and I thought that I did, but it just wasn't what I was promised. And I think in that respect, I'm kind of lucky in terms of knowing exactly what the 2 options are, university and apprenticeships, and knowing what works best for me personally. But I decided that I wanted to consider a apprenticeship, and decided that I would apply to Safri, and managed to get a job and move on to it now. And I've been there for about 2 years, and it's been really, really great.
Okay, so of those 2 experiences then, you feel that you are more suited better to the apprenticeship and enjoy that process more?
Yeah, when I was at school, it was really great to learn and everything. And you think that it's the same as university, but it just wasn't the same for me. And what you get in an office is you get almost a school structure, especially at Safri, because you're always learning and you're always able to ask someone, and you feel like your teachers, they kind of care about you more than university professors, just because university is just such a larger scale than school. So you kind of, it was different, it was a change, and I think for me personally, an apprenticeship was the right decision.
Okay, before we move on to our panel then, I've been asked, what does ICW stand for?
ICAW, so it's International Chartered Accountants of Scotland and Wales. Yes, so it's an ACA qualification, so there's a few different options to how you become a qualified accountant, but that's just one of them. So that's the ACA, but there's the ACCA, there's CIMA, there's loads of different apprenticeship options to become a chartered accountant.
Okay, so a little bit like with teaching, like you need to get a certain qualification for you to be able to do that job. So same sort of thing. All right, cool. Thank you for kind of clarifying that. We're going to move on to our panel now. So lots of, sorry, not panel, our Q&A. So lots of questions. And if you have those questions, do keep coming them in. We're going to randomly start picking different speakers to kind of come and ask questions. So let's start with this question. Should we say, Hassan, would you like to answer this question first? Again, make sure you're ready to answer, because I could be picking your name at any moment and you don't know who's next. So let's start, Hassan. Let's start you off with this question. Someone has asked, how many hours do you work per week that you get paid for? Do you ever find yourself working more hours or working time that you're not paid for? And similarly, how many hours do you then study?
For sure. Okay, so my weekly hours is 40 hours. And then that's split between 80 and 20. So 20% of the 40 hours is spent upon my university, so studying, and 80% is the actual workload. I'm paid for the full 40 hours. So essentially I'm paid for the 8 hours I actually study for and I do university for. And no, I don't find myself doing work in regards to my team, rotation work outside of hours. But just like any university student, I do find myself studying outside of the 20%. So weekends, after work hours. And to be honest with you, even if there's like an assignment coming up or I'm really stressful, I can mention it to my managers and even my rotation team that, look, guys, I'm under stress. Here's a scenario, and they're usually more than happy to just give you the time. I think that's everything answered. Was there something I missed or?
No, that was a good round answer. So thank you for answering that one. We'll now ask another question. Max, if you would like to answer this next one. Someone's asked about application processes. So could you go into a little bit of detail about the sort of stages there were when you were applying for them? Obviously you can't answer for everyone, but what about you? How many stages did you go through? Was there phone calls or was there like Zooms? What sort of application was it like for you?
Yeah, sure. So initially, you normally just apply online with typically just your CV and a personal statement. So it'll be similar to UCAS in that sense of small little bit about you, why you want to do the role. The first stage was typically a interview either online, so a Zoom or a Teams, or it'd be a video response call. I did a few of those. So how that worked would be a question would flash up on the screen and I'd effectively be on a call recording by myself and I'd have 2 minutes to read the question and then 2 minutes to respond to it, and you just have one take. So it's kind of a lot of thinking on the spot, so you've got to do obviously some pre-work beforehand in terms of what skills are you going to cover off with what examples. After that process, companies then tend to do a lot of testing. So either we do psychometric testing at Zenopa, which is more personality characteristic based. I've got a brother that does a finance degree who did more of a maths related test. So I'm sure if it's a specific industry or role, it's more of a personalized test in that sense. And then we do assessment centers for the final stage, which I'm sure many companies now do as well, which involves kind of the final 8 to 12 applicants who will do a mixture of group testing, probably presentations, and interviews as well. So that's normally a good chance to meet a few more people outside of the company as well. But yeah, it's kind of typically a 2, 3, 4 stage process, I'd say. And obviously it gets rattled down the further down you go.
All right, brilliant. Thank you for answering that one. Stacey, we'll go with you next. If you'd like to answer this question. We have someone here who said, and I think this is great because you've studied a degree as well. They said, do you feel that the value of a degree is higher or lower than against the apprenticeship? And have you ever had someone kind of doubt that qualification that you're getting, or do you find that sort of I don't know what word I should say, like sort of a stigma is attached to it, or do you think people value it equal?
I think there definitely is a stigma, and I think that's probably why it's not talked about as much in schools as you would like, and why, for example, I went to uni not even knowing that an apprenticeship was an option. I think it's more of an internal school stigma than an actual employer stigma. I think at the point where you're a grown up, you're applying for real jobs, you are giving them your CV and they're looking at experience instead of qualifications. So even if you've got a degree, or if you've got a degree from Oxford or a degree from wherever, it doesn't really matter. It's looking at who you are, what you've actually done with that degree, and how much experience you have and how much value you can add to the job. I think at that point you end up kind of evening out, because whilst someone might have a degree and you have a little bit of an equivalent qualification but something that might have a stigma to it, you also have 3 years of working and being in a professional environment and doing things like answering emails that really someone who's been at university doesn't. So there is a huge value added in that respect that I think makes up for it in terms of an employer perspective, which is probably the most important.
All right, thank you. Joel, then, next question for you. Someone has asked, is there an expectation that you have to stay at home whilst you're studying for your apprenticeship, or is it also kind of accepted that you can move around or move away towards an apprenticeship?
That's a good question. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, the university that I go to, they do accommodate you going to the university and staying there. They are very open to having apprentices as well as uni applicants as well. even then, I do feel like I can even study at my workplace most days. They are that lenient with how the course goes. The course can feel a lot more full on than a regular university course. I've got a brother and sister who both did uni and I did the apprentice, so I was the odd one out. But yeah, I suppose, yeah, you could do studying at home. It's not supposed to feel like it's too much for you unless you're making it too much for yourself. If you're not asking for help from the people you work with, if you're not asking for help from your lecturers, if you're not asking for help when you're even at home or at your university with your friends or family, because that's what it feels like for me when I'm in a lecture. I feel like I can talk to fellow apprentices and people who are studying at the university full time as well. And it should feel like almost you're working as a team, not working as an individual.
Okay, great. Thank you for answering that one. Julia, we have a question that's come in for you. And it's a question around the phrase disability confident. Could you explain to us a little bit about what that is, what it means for both personally and companies?
Thank you. Yeah, great question in the chat. So thank you for whoever posted that. So when an employer says that they are disability confident, generally speaking, what that means is the employer is on a bit of a journey. There are different levels of grades, if you like, for being disability confident. But what that's really saying is the employer is becoming and working hard towards being as fully inclusive as they can be. And so for a young person, if they are going to work at a disability confident employer, with a disability and confident employer, and they have some form of special need, I think the person in the chat mentioned autism, the employer will make whatever reasonable adjustments they can to make sure that they can accommodate that young person in their job role, and so discriminate positively by making sure that anybody with a disability of some kind can still work and perform the tasks that are available within that employer, so whatever vacancy they're offering. And I'm curious to know whether there's anybody on the call, whether any of the apprentices here, whether they work for companies who are disability confident. Do they know?
I think, yeah, they might not be aware of if their companies are or not. Of course, most companies have to not discriminate, but it's always good to work for an employer that supports. You know, I work for Speakers for Schools, not to do with apprenticeships and never did, but they're a great company. They support me. I'm dyslexic and struggle greatly with reading and spelling and things like that, so I get lots of support from them, and it's great to see that there is a program in place that's encouraging companies to become more confident when supporting people.
And thank you, Charlie. And what we've seen there is a couple of the apprentices have basically said that their employers are disability confident. And again, part of the reason that, or what's made it become really effective now is because employers understand how important young people are, no matter what their approach to working is. And for young people who are neurodiverse, they bring super duper special qualities that the employer might not be able to access normally. So actually, I think employers have woken up to the benefits of recruiting young people who basically think differently, because that's what's required to innovate, to stay ahead of the game, to be competitive. So it's becoming a very common thing, which is great if you are a young person who has special needs.
Yeah, definitely. And again, or not verbally communicable, but definitely several of our panelists mentioned that their companies are classified as disability confident. So next question then, Hassan, would you like to answer this one? We have a question here that's around the kind of work side of it and that kind of studying, around essays. You know, do you have to write essays and things as part of your apprenticeship? It would be interesting to know if anyone else, because I know you're all doing different ones, if that sort of essay work is also included within that. But yeah.
In regards to essay work, that's usually just to do with the university. So you find yourself writing up assignments, doing exams, but not so much with the actual work. You would find yourself doing like a rotation journal where you basically note down, it's exactly what it says, journal. You note down your experience in the rotations. In regards to essays, again, it will be no, but you would have like opportunities to do additional certifications offered by your company. So for example, Cisco offers CCNA, CCMP, DevNet, CCIE, but again, they're all exam based. They're not so much essays.
All right, definitely. I think we're coming towards the end of our session actually now. Only 5 minutes left of today. So we'll look towards wrapping up today's session. And as we kind of are closing, we'll start with you, Hassan, since you're already on screen. Yep. Would you like to kind of summarize your experience so far in your apprenticeship in just a couple of words for us?
For sure. My experience so far, and it's only been about 6 months, amazing. Honestly, one of the best things I've done. Honestly, straight from school, I get to study free degree, and to be honest with you, the more important thing is the experience I have. So it's 4 years, and the chance for continuous development. It's amazing. The access I have, the mentorship I have, it's been amazing.
Thank you. Stacey, would you like to go next and do the same?
Yep, I think some keywords are just opportunities, supportive, learning experience. Yeah, all these really great things that I wouldn't have been able to do without Zachary.
Thank you. Max, would you like to go next?
Yep, so for me, probably great exposure, ahead of the curve, and also making the most out of a great opportunity.
And then last but not least, Joel, would you like to summarise your experience with apprenticeships in a few words for us?
Yeah, I would say challenging above all and exciting. I mean, if you're not excited to get out of bed and go to work, then there's not much point in working. That's all you can really say. You got to pick something that you enjoy.
All right, thank you so much to all of our panelists today for joining us. It's been really great listening to you, and we've had such a variety of different experiences and all sorts of kind of just personal sort of anecdotes. It's been really lovely having you on. So thank you for kind of giving up your time and talking to us today. And thank you for all the questions that have been sent in. It's really lovely to receive so many and to know that so many of you are interested in all the opportunities that apprenticeships can kind of give you and are more interested. Hopefully you've found some good resources. We again have put the links on the screen with a QR code in case you're interested in following that link. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email us. We have also shared an after event feedback form in the Q&A thread. If you have a couple of moments, please feel free to complete this, as it really does help us shape future events. But for now, that's all from us, and thank you.